Look at that, we have a quorum. Good evening, folks, and welcome to tonight's Master Plan Update Steering Committee. Tonight we're dedicated to briefing prospective bidders on the master plan for consultants that will help us develop the master plan for our town. So with that, we're going to have a bit of a briefing, but as always, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Gary?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, folks, LCTV has done a very good job here. They've had us on television, as you know, for quite a while. And they should have the briefing, so as we go through the slides, you're going to be able to see them rather than just have to worry about a projection as it's up on the screen here. So, Kirby, we're going to let you take that away here in just a moment and we'll get through it. But first, gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to Littleton, our hometown, and we're pretty proud of it. And we're going to be looking forward for you gents and your companies and others who may decide to bid and could not make it here this evening. But we're looking forward to this. First off, I'm Paul Lavella. I've been in town now about 12 years. I'm on the selectmen, one of the board of selectmen here in town, and then also on the selection committee here, as which will go through the steering committee to get us going. And that's precisely what it is. Now, I want to emphasize to you folks, please, that it's not this committee's plan that we're looking to build. It's not the Board of Selectmen's plan. It's not the Planning Board's plan. The emphasis is on the 9,000 people in Littleton. It's their plan. And that's the point we want to drive home with you. And if you remember nothing else I tell you tonight, please, it's the people of Littleton's plan. And that's what we're working towards. With that, I'm going to ask my colleagues to go around the room, introduce themselves, just give you a little bit of background. And what I hope to achieve by doing that, and take a little bit of your time to do that, is you get to know just a little bit about us, where we come from, what our background is, and then how we've started to approach this as we've been working with the folks in town already to give you a flavor. And we're going to be asking you to do some things for us, and understanding that flavor, so to speak, perhaps will help you do your job much better as you put your proposals together for us to evaluate in the long run. So, with that, Renato?
Oh, hi, welcome and thank you for coming. My name is Renato Nakagomi. I am an electrical engineer, and I moved into Littleton 6 months ago, actually. And I have a small daughter, and I decided to be part of this community, and by doing that, I became more interested in how things are going forward. And how things are going to develop in this town. I was born in Brazil, but now I migrate 5 years ago to the U.S.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is Gary LaCroix. I am also in the Sustainability Committee, so I represent both of them here as well as in the Master Plan Committee. Been in the town since '93. I'm a civil engineer by trade, project manager, and my kids have pretty much grown up through here. I have a younger one as well as one in college, so I have a variety of kids who've gone through the school system and been involved in the athletics in town. And what I like about this town is the small town size feel of it and the agrarian type of atmosphere in town. You don't see a lot of subdivisions, a lot of strip malls and those kind of things, and I think we want to keep that balance going forward of smart planning and keeping the feel that we have in this town. Thanks.
Joe Ficacello. I've been in Littleton for about 4 years now. I'm a landscape architect. And I think the importance of this is that enjoying the character of the town, but also understanding, the rural character and all these other elements that people come to the town to live and raise their children, but also understanding that development and outside impacts and also changes within the town are inevitable, so how do we look at that and control it? No, not necessarily control it, but sort of maintain what's here, yet knowing that we're looking towards the future.
Good evening. I'm glad all of you were able to come. My name is Michael Zeldin. I've been in Littleton for 2 years. However, the house I lived in is actually much older. It dates back to 1997. I'm by trade, a molecular biologist, and also did a little work in venture capital for quite a number of years. I like Littleton because I consider it to be a big town because I grew up in a very, very small town that never exceeded 2,000. And Littleton has many of the features that I've wanted to come, shall we say, not back to, but basically to reproduce and even make better. And that's what it looks like. Littleton is going to be that. So I'm looking forward to the plan that takes us forward to that.
Okay. My name is Mike Fontanella. I'm the chairman of the school committee. I've lived in Littleton for 16 years now. My wife and I are raising our 3 sons here, and my wife also is a small business owner in Littleton. I'm very interested in the master plan update process because I believe that Littleton is well down the road to a transition. A significantly different town than it was the last time we did a master plan update. And I think this is a great time to do it, and I'm looking forward to see what the result is.
My name is John Bielefeld. I'm a handyman, and I've been in Littleton since 1986, and my kids have moved on. They graduated from college thanks to the good school system here. They also played sports in college. But now my wife and I are looking at, okay, what's life after kids? And that's why I'm here, to see where we go from here. So.
Good evening, everyone. Melissa Heber, Board of Selectmen, resident for over 25 years, spent most of my life here, went to school here. Came back here after moving to other country, love this town very much. If you look, updating the master plan is one of the top goals of the Board of Selectmen. So it's really important for us to have some guidance when making strategic decisions and something we can really use as a tool day to day.
A couple of other members who are not present this evening because of other commitments, counties. So 60 years, give or take a few months on their age. So we go from out to roughly 6 months or so through 60 plus years. Just haven't moved to people their whole lives, and those of us in between. Melissa, who was here growing up, then left for a while and came back. Personally, I'm a New England kid. I grew up in Rhode Island, joined the Air Force 30 years around the world, and settled back here. You can take a kid out of New England, but you can't take New England out of the kid. Love it here. And some of the things you heard, we all share, and those reasons why we're here. This evening, we're going to provide you all the opportunity to give you as much information as possibly can. Hopefully the briefing gives a substantial amount of that, but we anticipate that you're going to have questions. Certainly some of the questions we think can be administrative and easily enough handled this evening, but some of them may well need to be written down, processed in, and then that way we can offer the same answer and it's consistent so that it's not just, I think he said, it's very clearly, this is what they wrote, so that we can give you the best possible answer to help you do the best possible job you can in building a proposal that really serves our needs, and that's what we're going to be driving for. So certainly let's go through the briefing. If you think it's important enough, say, hey, how about this? You can stop and answer the question. If they want to take a note and ask it later on, gentlemen, your choice on that. Okay, doke? So we'll start going through that. Well, welcome to Littleton. What we're showing you there is a very recent addition to our town. It's at the front, it's at the front on Great Road coming into town from Acton. So on Route 119, Great Road, heading from Acton, as I say, west into town. And it was part of the Church Centennial, one of the things that the Legacy Subcommittee put up. So you can see very nicely portrait out there with the flowers and the light. But I wanted to show you that to welcome you to our town. Okay, why we gathered this evening? Really, it's to give you as much information as possibly can, as I sort of already stated, and that is so that we can put the best possible proposal together. And that's what we're trying to drive for you all this evening. And you get bonus points if you know where that is. All right, how about what time of year? Just real general background, obviously. Roughly about 9,000 people here in town. It's based on the 2010 census. And give or take, depends on whose estimates you use, but that's a good round number, 9,000 or so folks. You can see the size of the town. We're pretty much 17 and a half square miles. Not the smallest town, certainly not the biggest town either in the state of Massachusetts. Density is not all that big when you really get down. You can do the simple math of 18 or so square miles divided by 9,000. You can see we don't have a lot of people, and I apologize for that. Sorry, bye, folks. So let me show you so it never happens again.
We'll get my hammer to really make sure never.
For me? Yeah. You can see primarily we're land, but having said that we're primarily land, there's a lot of wetlands in the town. And if you don't already know about the town, as you go around, you see in the protected areas and stuff, you see that we don't have a large percentage, certainly there's towns with a large percentage of protection that we have as far as the property goes, town when it comes to open space and the like, but we're certainly under the 20% number, so to speak. Government, we're open town meeting. It's a Board of Selectmen, and we have a town administrator. Do I need to speak up louder?
Just need to point that towards you a little bit.
How's this, Kirby? Does that help? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Current master plan that we're operating under right now is 2002. So you can see 13 years old, and what are we supposed to do about every 10 years or so? So we're close, sort of. All right, what are the priorities? So what are we really looking for, you gentlemen and your companies to help us with? Certainly want to put in the context of small municipalities, which we are, along 495, it's just the physical geography is where we exist on the planet, just to the northwestern edge of the Boston greater metropolitan area, if you will. Looking to help with a process that helps us assess what we want to be like in the next 10 years and how we're actually going to be growing during those next 10 years. And what we're going to look like that next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And how do you help us see what it is we think we want to see and then help us actually achieve that vision, so to speak. Bring new concepts, almost a throwaway phrase in a way. But hopefully we're thinking that we do indeed want some new thoughts in this. Not stated in that, oh, we like the way it is, don't bother us with any new thoughts or ideas. Challenge us on that. Challenge the town as we go forward, please. And it needs to be sustainable. It can't be a one-time shot that it works for the next year or 5 years or whatever. It's got to be something so that when folks are standing in this room 10 years from now, speaking whether to you or your successors, that they're building upon what it is we built in this process here, rather than starting again at ground zero. So we're asking that you think about that. And certainly, it's got to be funding realities. Fiscally, it has to work, because the pie in the sky just isn't going to work. So as you go through this, we all have great ideas, grandiose thoughts, but if we can't put some dollars to it and actually be able to achieve it, whether it's through sweat equity or actual dollars being thrown at the issue, it's not going to happen. Okay, we think we know where we want to go, but then how do we know we're getting there? So what are those milestones, if you will, if we're going to be concerned about inch stones in certain instances? But how do we say, this is the tool we're going to use to measure, are we getting to where we want to be, and how do we know that? So help us there, please. Talked about detailed and achievable. So again, we talked about money just a couple minutes ago, but any implementation plan certainly has to be something that we can get there from here. Come up with the recommendations and a schedule that's going to help us and help us prioritize as we go through that. We think we have a pretty good capital improvement plan. As I said, we think. Challenge us on that. And at the end of this briefing, I'm going to show you a list of extent plans that we have at this point. That's going to be one of those plans. As we go through that and we do a capital improvements in the town, you're going to have to tell us, please, where we've missed the boat, maybe where we've caught it once in a while, but then what are some of the other thoughts that you think are necessary to help us achieve what it is we're trying to achieve. The values of the town. You heard us talk a little bit here, and that's why I asked colleagues here to offer that to you, to get a little bit of insight, at least how half dozen, 10 or so people are thinking in the town right now. Certainly we're going to be seeing that you're going to be looking at the entire town overall, but begin getting that flavor, so to speak. So what are the values? We think we know what our values are. Doesn't mean we haven't missed the boat on that. So we're asking for your help there also. And then, how do we keep it going forward? What tools do we have so that we can make good decisions going forward? What tools do we have? And it gets back to some metrics and the measurements so that we know we're achieving what it is we want to achieve. I'll pause there for any questions on our priorities. Okey-doke. 2002 Master Plan. You can see I've spent quite a few slides on this. And as we were putting the briefing together, we started thinking, what they did 13 years ago was pretty darn good. Now, the successes, those of us who followed, how well we follow the plan becomes another issue, and that's incumbent upon us. So whatever it is you present to us, no matter how great it may be, if we don't execute it well, that's our bad. Folks who have executed this plan over the course of the years can always get that critique. The thing is, it provides a good basis to give you an idea of what we're thinking already and what we're thinking now and what folks have been thinking over the years. Okay, we're a small town located along the 495. We have 3 exits on 495. And I apologize for this. That's good and bad. I'm going to talk about the bad first. Because what it does, actually, it puts a burden on our fire safety. Because unfortunately, along an interstate, interchanges, accidents happen. And that's actually a bit of a burden on some of the resources of town. Now, the good part is accessibility. that it provides. By having those three accesses on and off, we feel that it gives us opportunity to get people into town. Now, Great Road traditionally has been here for hundreds of years, you know, throughway to Boston. But now, we're looking at roughly 20,000 cars a day. I just said only 9,000 people live in town. If 20,000 cars are going on that road, it's a lot of through traffic and not in-place organic traffic. So those are considerations, too, as we go through this. And we start talking about some of the economics in an economic development plan. Is how do we capture some of that activity, too, as it's gone through town, and that they want to stop here and perhaps contribute to the economy. Open fields. We certainly have quite a few of them in town. It is a bit of a rural setting. A lot of folks use the phrase bucolic. In many instances it is. If you drove in, because it might have been dark, you may not have seen it. But if you came up from the Acton on 119 through there, you're going to see a lot of open fields there. In fact, one particular farm there, roughly 43 or so acres, 34 acres, excuse me, is currently being considered for the town to actually purchase. It's called the Cooper property, Cooper Farm. You'll hear that as you're going through this process. And remember, this is from the 2002 plan still, but we still see some of these things today. And certainly demand for homes, as we all would understand, is putting a demand on those properties. I think you heard a couple folks tonight say, we think of Littleton is pretty much a rural community. Indeed, rural may overstate it, but certainly we're not metropolitan, maybe some more along suburban of sorts. And in many ways, a bit of a bedroom community, too. Certainly, we have some light industries and other retail. But when you think about it, 9,000 folks are primarily, we're a bedroom community. It sends a lot of people towards the Boston area. A lot of good folks in town have been trying to do a lot of good things over these last 13 years, previous to that, and certainly going forward. That's not changed. But the second bullet there, 64, so over the last 50 years, there's been a lot of emphasis, and you see the growth in the town, and when you start digging into the demographics a little bit and population growth, then you're going to see where some of the surges occurred in this town. And certainly the 60s is one of them, where the town grew from its humble beginnings to a bit more populated, to a point of really almost nearly doubling in population. Small numbers to begin with, but nevertheless a dramatic change as to how folks who were in town, and certainly there's still a substantial number of folks who were in town before 64, remember and see how it changes. And I'm going to have a little picture here a little bit later on too, where you can kind of see some of that change that took place. And then pulling it all together. Folks have been doing that all along, but that's where your plan's going to help us too. It's how do you give us some good tools to help us so we can pull the strings and pull it all together so that it becomes a workable plan that we can work with. Our growth management before, we haven't had a great handle on growth management. For example, we recently, when I say recently, it's nearing completion, a 40B project of 200 units. We already talked about, about 9,000 people, 3,200 or so homes in the town to begin with, and then you throw another 200 in there, virtually overnight. So that's a substantial change for us. Could we have done something differently 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago? So we weren't at 8.6% when the developer came to town. Said, you're under 10%. And the state said, he's right. And he can do 200 units. As you all understand, given the size of our town, 200 units was the max that could happen, and he went for the max. Would we like something else different? We all would have liked it, but what could we have done previously so we could have helped shape that? And that's where you're going to come in also helping us out, so that as we go now in the future, and we're roughly about 12.8% now when it comes to affordable housing in the town of Littleton. But we'll be looking at some things, and we have certainly a housing development plan also that MPUSC has helped us put together previously. That's accent for us. Conservation, if anything, I would almost have said there's no change, but I think I'd rather use the words as it's increased in importance to folks in town, the conservation of land in town. So please keep that in mind. And the last one, minimize the impacts. I just told you 20,000 cars a day or so on Great Road. It's a state highway. What are we going to do to minimize that? Precious little, just to be candid with each other. But what do we do as far as so that it's not I'm going to use the phraseology, a worse impact than it currently is. Because even in our little town, we can get backed up. And again, using 119 back up the hill, so from the center of town heading east, and it's now, we'll be up on the top of the hill, which if you're familiar enough with Fletcher property and the Neshoba tubing area there, traffic has been backed up there on occasion. headed west into town, waiting for the lights to change. And certainly with the point, was mentioned earlier this evening, and the new traffic signals that are in place there also, it's a substantial opportunity for delayed traffic getting through town. And we should be open to some ideas too, as to if you actually saw something there, that how do we help the state help us so we can get better traffic flow. Okay, I want to transition to challenges, and this is going to be pictorial, so somewhat metaphorical, so I hope that doesn't bore you too much, but we want to show you some pictures, and the pictures of the town for the most part. We hope it explains some things. Certainly challenges, transportation is one of them. There's no news. That said, we've had a couple good things happen in town with the last mile, so to speak, crosstown commute. Recently, second line has been put through. The Fitchburg line is the one we're on for the MBTA. Town administrator has done a heck of a job, yeoman's work really, working with the MBTA. And now here, within the month, we're going to have 2 stops outbound from Boston before it's 8:30. So the first one's going to be roughly about 7:30. Tremendous help when we look at IBM and that reverse commute and how a good number of IBM employees work inside the 495 loop, and how do we get them out here? So that's substantial. I think you can see vacant, 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 vacant. Too many buildings in our town are vacant. I want you to help us figure out how we help build those and populate them. All right, open fields to housing. Not one of us in the room here is in a house that was once on a vacant field. We get that. So how do we do development that's smart, that works for the folks in town, but doesn't become the drawbridge up and nobody need apply? That's not the kind of people we are. So, but how do we take folks in, continue to build, but build in such a way that really works very hard to preserve the town the way you're finding it today, and certainly the way that people would like to see it. I was real proud of myself earlier this evening. I found one of my little laser pointers, but then I learned it doesn't work on this. So, so I'm just going to put, top left is our town common. And you can see a flag, and it's a memorial to veterans. But now if we look at the right-hand picture, that picture's from 1974. And if we look at the triangle in the center of it, and the top of the triangle, the apex there, is where we're looking at right there. So you can see what it looked like back then. If you drive through town, you're going to see where else hasn't it changed. So there's nothing new there. But now there's Route 119 looking from the bottom right hand of that triangle east on 119 and the traffic. We talked about that already, just the picture to emphasize it. Infrastructure in town. Folks before us have done a pretty darn good job in doing a lot of infrastructure improvements. I'm going to start with, we're going to be doing some more work here recently, or soon. That's our fire station. Used to be the town hall. This building now is the town hall that we're in today. But with new apparatus, larger trucks, increased responsibilities, and some infrastructure that's decaying in the fire department, there's going to be renovations there. The Russell Street School in the top center there, the one that we most recently renovated, pretty much HVACs, electrical, and that kind of infrastructure renovations. New windows. What else we do, Mike, on Russell Street?
Like wiring and internet and a lot of upgrade in whiteboards and technology that they use in the classrooms. So stuff like
The structure was fairly darn sound.
Yeah.
It was good structure, which was, we're very fortunate in that regard.
Took it down pretty much to the studs.
Yeah.
The architectural finishes are all pretty much updated.
Yeah.
Center left is our high school, just about 12 years old now, 13 years old. New building folks put a lot of effort into building that for us. Bottom center, new middle school, 2006, new building. Middle right is our police station. Again, that's just about 6 years old now. And then bottom right, which is our oldest building when it comes down to it, is Shaker Lane. I should say second oldest because Russell Street's actually an older building from what you're seeing on the Shaker Lane piece there. So the 4 school buildings that we have in town, police station, all fairly good, I'm saying that poorly, very good infrastructure when it comes to that, and soon to have very good infrastructure when we look at the new fire station. All right, now we start looking at folks. You know, we looked at, talked a little bit about equipment, we talked about infrastructure, buildings and stuff, but it's people. That's why the town's here. That's why we all do this. Folks who have been in town for a long time, if not their whole life, certainly a good portion of this adult life. How do we help them out? What is it we do to help folks that are in this position so that their town remains a town that they can stay in? And we'll be talking a little bit about that here in a moment. Little girl on the right, yeah, if you want to, really get deep into metaphors, and the adult on the left, think of it as here are us in town today, leading folks that are going to go down that path in the future. There's a curve in the road. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. There's a curve in the road ahead. So the path is clear for a little while. Thanks very much. But around the bend, we don't know. So what is around that bend? How do we prepare for it? What can we do today, over these next few months, and then years leading up to it, so that it's a pleasant view for that little girl as she rounds the bend? What are we going to ask you to do? Look at that 2002 master plan, and then look at what we've told you this evening, look what we've told you in the RFP, and where are we on that? Go out there and get that input, and we're going to certainly be asking you, what are the various methods, tools, techniques that you propose, and we do that. And then help us formulate that consensus. Because as I said earlier in the briefing, it's the plan for 9,000 people, not any one board, committee, or set of folks in town. We've obviously given you some assumptions. We've gone forward. These are some of the things we thought. We presented it. How valid are those assumptions? Go out there and challenge them and make sure that if we're not on board, and we haven't done this correctly, we do get the correct views, concerns that folks of Littleton would like. And then, obviously, help us develop that new master plan. One that is pragmatic. Innovation's an easy word to throw around, and so is creativity. But we're certainly hoping that we're forward enough thinking to open the door to that, and that you're able to help us walk through that door. And what are the implementation steps? It's easy to say, here's a plan, drop it on there, but how do we go about accomplishing it? I'm going to need your help there, please. And then it's got to be executable within fiscal realities. Again, easy to say, that pie in the sky, well, it'd be grand, and certainly we'd be more than willing to accept, like you may say, fiscally you can't afford to do this right now, by our assessment, our analysis. But if you take some of these steps, perhaps next year, 5 years from now, whatever it may be, you may be able to do that. So certainly, don't leave it to, well, you've only got a couple of bucks here today, and that's all we're going to give you a plan to. Don't misinterpret that, please, but certainly scale it so that it's proper there. These are plans that exist now, or some of them may still be in development. I'm sorry, that's going to give you a lot of good information about the town that's already happened, data collection that's taken place up to this point, and we certainly offer it to you all so that you can use it as necessary to help put your proposal together. Okay, here's the solicitation. Your gents are here tonight. That's where we are. Certainly we're going to answer any questions you may have this evening. As I began this all with is, what do we have as far as questions go that maybe we should write down and answer that way? And Marin's going to help us there, and we'll get those answers to you. Any information that we need to change, we'll try and get that out to you within the next 10 days. And then certainly the proposals we're asking for, that you get them into before Thanksgiving. Interviews, put December, perhaps maybe about the week of 7 December, give or take, as far as we neck it down as the proposal that we seem to think that really fit what it is we're looking for in a town, and then call folks in, do some interviewing, and then proceed from there. We're looking for a January 17 award. And May 17 for the completion. What we'll look for is the town meeting.
Yeah, sorry.
20, yes, sir.
Wouldn't it be
Here in 2016.
December 2015, contract award January 2016?
Yes.
January 2016, yes, thank you very much.
Because you get 14, 15 months.
My bad. It's January 16. May 17, I got that part right, but yeah, you're right. January coming up in 4 months, 3 months, 2 months. So, thanks.
Interview in December.
See, they were paying attention, Joe. Seriously. But May 17 completion, what we're looking for is, that's presentation to town meeting. Now the planning board has approved it, it's ready to go, and from the statute perspective here in Massachusetts, we'll have complied. But now, to the people perspective, is we're presenting it to the folks in town. More bonus points if you know where this is. Be quiet. I don't expect you to know, and I don't mean that as a quiz. But when you do know where this is, you'll know a lot about our town, and that'll be useful. Questions, folks? It wasn't that good a briefing, couldn't have answered all your questions.
It's pretty darn good. Well done, Paul.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned a capital improvements plan, but I didn't see it on the list of plans in the RFP, and didn't see it on the website. And related to that, it notes that the plans are available on the website, and there were several of them that were on the master plan update steering committee website. Some of them I found under the reports section elsewhere on the website, but there were several I couldn't find.
Okay.
Should I just send Maren a...
Yes, please. And apologize because we thought we did a better job there. So if we've missed something, yeah, send that list, please. And we will answer that, and the answer will go out to everybody. So, Mark, any that you may have, other gentlemen, if you think we missed ones, we'll compile that. Make sure you do have access to those. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think you asked for a review in a governance section. Is there any particular issue that we should be aware of?
No, I said there's nothing specific. It's not like we had something in the back of our minds. And certainly, like, let's see if they find it. We just want to make sure that we've not missed anything when it comes to governance from perspective. Certainly, again, following legislation and statute, that we're in good shape there. Certainly, we don't want to be going down a road that seems like a good idea, but it violates some basic tenet of state law or whatever, or federal law. When we look at some of the things that are changing, and I'm going to throw out stormwater, for example, where the EPA here is very recently going to come out with perhaps some new stormwater requirements on how we make sure it's clean water that's flowing out into things. Have we missed anything there, for example? And not specific to that, but in general. Does that answer it?
So you weren't looking for an internal review of the town governance structure?
No, not specific to that, but it's as you're going through and you say, you know, you guys do a good job doing this, but you really do a lousy job here. If that comes up and it makes good sense to improve upon that, then please do offer that. Anybody else want to add? Yes, sir.
I understand, I think in some of your meeting minutes, that you've been talking a lot about economic development. There's a parallel economic study that you're either have started or hoping to start. Can you talk more about how that fits into this process?
Sure can. Recently, and by recently, the last 2 years, give or take, we re-energized the Economic Development Committee. And they did a heck of a lot of homework, too. It's available for your use. So that's certainly part of it. We are using Northeastern Dukakis School to help us, and we're going to do a economic survey also of the town. We received a grant. I mentioned earlier about the Crosstown Connect and the last mile, so to speak. Community Compact, the state of Massachusetts, we've received 3 grants through that program. One for the last mile, and then second one for fire and safety, to develop 5-year strategic plans. The third one, though, is $4,500 grant to help us, and we'll use that money with the Dukakis School to help us do that survey. And Mike, help me with the name of it.
EdSet.
It's called EdSet. It's been developed, probably you gentlemen are familiar with the firms, have probably seen traces of it around the state. It was developed specifically for the Commonwealth to allow communities to basically do a very rigorous assessment of the potential pitfalls and all the rest for what goes for under the term economic development. And that tool has grown to the point, the basic idea behind it, in brief, if it's new stuff to you, is it's really the distillation and implementation of the thinking and the practices of other consultants who help companies locate. Why do you come to this location, this one? Were you successful in this one, and why? All that's been brought together along with all the other elements to assist towns in assessing internally, what are you doing, what have you got, what's your potential, and this is how to present yourself or not. And that's what Ed said, gives you the tools allegedly to do.
And as soon as that becomes available to us, we make it available to you.
I was going to ask, when is that going to be?
Don't know the answer right now. We're just in the process of working with the school to actually get the process going for us.
Format for final plan. I didn't see anything in there. Obviously, you're going to want a PDF to put up on the town website. Are you also looking for X number of hard copies of the plan to put in the library and around? Just need to know whether it's 10 or 100.
Okay, let's give you a written answer on that, because that's a good question, and I don't want to just throw one out, because we didn't put that in there. Certainly, electronic, this is going to be in the cloud for sure. Copies, as you suggest. Thank you.
Could you talk a little bit about the role of the master plan of the steering committee and what you see their role during the process being and how they'll be working with the consultant?
Okay. Let me take you up to where we are today, and then I'll take you forward if I may. Just as it says, a steering committee. So you saw somewhat of an eclectic group, eclectic for Littleton standards in all candor, that as we're going forward and bringing things together and trying to get ready to get that RFP out on the street so that you folks could look at it and bid against it. And then as we go forward, so we're our conduit. Marin is our main planner here in town, is a direct conduit, and then through me as the chairman, and then with the committee. So as we're working through it and the successful bidder, it'll be a partnership, if you will. In all candor, you're going to be doing the heavy lifting. That's our expectation. But as we go about to, and then we help facilitate. So as you're trying to make some contacts in town, if it's not working, we roll in and help out there. There will be some questions about the town that may just be very simply answered because we live here, so we know the answer. We answer those questions for you. And again, just because we live here, we may not know the answer, but we get you going in the right direction with the right people to answer those questions. Does that help you? In all honesty, you're the pros from Dover. Everybody remembers MASH when they were in Tokyo to play golf when they're supposed to be operating. So you're the experts. We're depending on you for that. So. And I know that's a 1970s reference.
I know MASH. I didn't know the...
You know the show, we know
Yeah.
the movie.
That's right.
You can see cultural literacy sometimes, in those translations.
So to follow up on the previous question, where we've worked with other communities, the master plan steering committee or the equivalent has had a particular feel for about how often they're comfortable meeting.
Mm-hmm.
If we suggest they meet on a monthly basis, they may say, oh, no, that's too much. Every other month will be fine. And then we can push back and say, no, you really need to meet each month at this time because we're at a crunch point here. But is any further feedback from the committee regarding about how often you're comfortable meeting? You've all got obligations as well.
Mm-hmm.
You can't obviously meet every week.
Peter?
Well, obviously, want to see a lot of you at the beginning, which obviously at the very start of it all, you're not going to be charging us anything for those meetings. We just want to make sure that all the money that you're going to be collecting from us is down and dirty work, none of this meeting stuff, so don't put any of that into your bills. Be clear? Clear as can be. Crystal? I think at the beginning it'll be a little more advanced, and then in the end, as you tone your product to us, then I think they could spread out. I think the beginning would be better to be a little more. That's my opinion. A little more at the beginning, a little less at the end, and then it's kind of like a hurricane at the end. We'll see a lot of you.
And certainly, again, this evening, just to give you a bit of a feel for us. And then as you start doing a little bit more research in the proposal preparation, Peter's comments, are very well stated, as always, by the way. We look for the type of meetings is going to be important also. If you were saying, we're going to have small focus groups of 10 or 15 people, 200 times, to use an absurd number, maybe that's not right. We're going to have a couple of focus groups, we're going to have a couple of visioning groups, we're going to have a couple, 3 town meetings, if you will. We're going to invite the entire town populace. Some of it's going to be, I would suspect, or we suspect, is you're going to single out some folks in town, whether it's town government, community activities, whether it's religious, civic, whatever. Folks in towns that you see are leaders, but then also folks in town, I live here because I like it here, and this is how I'm involved. And you seek out folks like that also. So, Mark, I'm hesitant to say we'd like to see 10 meetings as part of the process. Part of it's going to be, as we look through your proposals, it's going to be a bit subjective. One organization or company's going to say it's 10 meetings, the other one says it's 12 meetings. When we look at everything else, 12 meetings makes more sense. And, I flip-flop a few things, and all of a sudden 10 meetings makes more sense. It doesn't help you a heck of a lot, perhaps, as you're trying to scope it out. But anybody else want to add? Everybody has to ask one question, or you can't leave. Yes, sir.
I already asked one, but I'll have another. Can you point to any particular public participation process or planning event that was really successful in town in the past that you think every town is different in terms of trying to get people to come out. Sometimes it's the threat that gets people to come out. Sometimes it's...
I heard Trunk or Treat was really popular a couple days ago.
I was there.
And certainly candy was handed out. So, although what we've come to learn, because one of the things we did is we had other towns and people from their steering committees or their equivalents thereof, and in the various stages, so some where they were just finishing up, some they had finished up earlier, some were thinking about it, and certainly events with food seem to be very, very popular and help to attract folks. Council on Aging meetings, you're certainly going to get a particular demographic there. School committee certainly is one of those in other areas where, going to the schools and seeing what you work with the school administration, the parent-teacher associations. So there's more organization on how you reach some of those folks. To say there's a specific type of event in the town of Littleton, what do you think?
One of the ones that recently happened that one of the biggest participation I've seen is when the topic of synthetic turf fields came up. So there's a big challenge with playing ball fields in the town and the state of the current ones, and discussion about capacity, honestly. And a special interest group, along with many other supporters, came forward with an idea to install synthetic turf, and there was a lot of people. I forget the words you used, but it was one where there was conflict. Not everyone agreed to the solution. It was hard getting people on the same page on the problem. Lots of folks came out when that was a discussion at town meeting. Trying to think.
Perhaps the most recent one where it was just a fun thing, very eclectic of folks coming out, would have been tercentennial celebrations.
Yep.
Picnic, for example.
Yep.
Opening ceremonies. Before the Thanksgiving football game, for example.
Yeah.
The Rotary Club in town does a breakfast.
Food.
Food
Yeah.
involved in that. So I don't know that we can point to one specific sort of event that's
Mechanism.
routine, that gets a large number of folks.
Yeah, I agree. We just had town meeting last night, and it was there wasn't.
138.
Oh, thank you. 138.
Middle of the year, November, 9 articles.
Yeah.
But Melissa brings up a good point. I think that if you're talking about generic concepts, like master plan update, just as a generic concept, I think that you're going to get a lot of glazed looks and you're going to have trouble engendering enthusiasm. But if you break it out into pieces, there are pieces of the master plan that will resonate with the community, and you might very well get a bigger turnout by virtue of ostensibly focusing on one aspect of it. But as these things go, it may quite often bleed out into other aspects that weren't necessarily the focus of that evening's discussion. But that's how you can think about it, too. Open space is a big one. You've alluded to that. Economic development is another one. Sewering is a big one that can engender a lot of pros and cons back and forth. Playing fields, active versus passive recreation, and those kinds of things. In this particular town have seemed to resonate over the last couple of years versus other things.
My sense also is that you're going to want to have a mixture of different types of engagement methodologies. I don't know if the one person speaking and then everybody taking turns sharing a microphone, I mean, maybe some opportunities for that, but I think more of a, I forget the terminology, but chance to talk one-on-one without feeling like they have to dominate the floor. Not a lot of people want to speak up in front of an audience, but they want to maybe engage one-on-one. How do you facilitate that kind of engagement, I think, is going to be very important.
Sir.
What was the level of support to fund the master plan when it came up before town meeting?
Very good. Was there any discussion at all on the dollar figures? We presented, and we actually went twice because we increased the funding, 3 times, yeah, thank you. Because we increased the funding to make sure that we felt we had a significant amount and the correct amount, more important.
I don't think there was any objection at all. There were some questions on clarification, exactly what they were going to get for the money, but it was very supportive and just more information questioning than, questioning whether it was a good idea or not. There was really nothing negative about it.
Yeah, short, concise, very supportive. Anybody want to add anything?
If you have another question.
Oh, yes, sir.
I don't know if this is really relevant, but is there any regional aspect, like has the town been working with other nearby abutting communities?
Yes.
On certain things that play into this?
For example, the crosstown commute. We won an award from the, I got to make sure I get the organization correct, International Association, I'm not saying it quite right, but International Association of Town Managers, based out in Seattle, and that's where they just had the most recent national convention. And that was 4 weeks ago, that convention, give or take. Anyways, we, along with Acton, Boxborough, Maynard, and Westford, 5 towns, worked together on that, and were recognized as such. So the town won an award from this organization, our 5 towns. And only Maynard doesn't directly abut us, of the towns I just mentioned, but it's just one town over. Any other examples we can?
Yeah, I think we're also part of the Metro West 495 group.
In terms of needs, I think you mentioned sewer's a hot topic. Has there been any discussion of regionalization there, or police response, 911 regional? Things that, again, you talk innovative, creative, fiscally, the challenges. Has there been any, I don't know if it was in anything in the 2002 plan, but,
Right now, we have some shared services, depending on what it is. So, for example, LCTV is a great example. We actually share them with other communities to provide their televising of board meetings. Or, for example, our dog catcher, how do we call that? Dog catcher?
Animal control.
Thank you. The animal control we share with Boxborough. So we do tend to look to those solutions. Have we used it in all cases? And no on sewering, right? Not always, but it definitely comes up. Even we have that Air Road example, or not Air Road, but that road going in Air with the traffic improvements we need to make there coming up. So it definitely happens. I don't know that it's happened on a conscious, strategic way.
Certainly,
I don't think it hasn't been coordinated. It's been sporadic, one-off type of efforts, very small, nothing that I would consider scalable. Definitely from the educational point of view, we are a single-town education system. We've had very, very brief consideration of regionalization. Maynard is building a new high school, and they were asked by the state to consider regionalization before they would approve a new high school, and we had a very brief talk with them. As PJ indicated, we don't abut them directly, so we didn't feel that there was any merit to it. When we've had very general discussions with Boxborough about sharing services, not regionalizing the district, but possibly sharing a sped director or a business manager, did not come off, did not even really get off the ground. And I don't really think that that ever will in the very near term. Like I would say 5 to 10 years, I don't see that happening unless the state starts to push much harder on mandating that type of regionalization for public education. I think Littleton's very content with where they are right now.
But we do have a substantial special education collaborative.
Yep.
We're in the case collaborative for that. We've taken many students in also, and then certainly students leave Littleton and go to other school districts as part of special education programs. But I would say it's very robust. John?
Yeah, our municipal electric company, we also provide power to the neighboring town, Boxborough. So,
And Fort Devens too, doesn't it? Can we do something over at Fort Devens?
With power?
No, we're a subcontractor.
You mentioned 911 when we were doing the new police station. There was quite a bit of conversation about regionalized dispatch. That did not come about. We do have mutual support, both fire and police with various communities. And if we were to require special tactics, for police, we are part of a shared organization also, where we contribute forces and other police forces would help as necessary on those levels. So let's see, so we talk about police, fire, schools,
Highway.
light and power,
Yeah.
light and
Highway.
highway,
Neshoba Associated Boards of Health.
there you go, yep, that's going. So while we have our own Board of Health in town, we're also part of it, as Myron just said, Neshoba Valley, own Board of Health also. When it comes to business organizations, the Chambers of Commerce, we're pretty much right on the boundary of both Neshoba and Merrimack. So we've got folks in town that belong to both of those. We have our own Littleton Business Association, nascent stage. It's been formation about the last 6-7 months. The new on-board station. I think of some of the mutual or joint activities that we may have. If we think of something, we'll certainly put that in comments back to you all also.
Co-op with Aaron Shirley for youth basketball. Anybody care about that?
Well, and then let's not forget youth football too while we're at it, right?
We're actually standalone for youth football at the moment. We'll see how long that lasts.
Take an opportunity to talk about the high school football, though. Let's do that. Let's brag.
Everybody knows about that.
swim team.
Yeah, we do co-op. We have a few sports that co-op with other school districts. Sometimes we go, sometimes we accept. Depends on how it goes.
That all covered?
Covers it. Thank you.
Okay. No, do you want to add anything? No. There, Joe. Mike, what are your bridle? You? I'll get back to you. I'm saving you to last.
Once you come back, I just want to make
Okay,
sure it's
Mike.
worth
I'm good, thank you.
I'm good.
No, I'm just maybe one quick thing. Just this is a community with a lot of heart, and we're really a special and unique place. And so we're really looking for a special partnership with someone that can meet our needs creatively. So that's it.
And if you've heard that anyplace else, I'm sure they thought that was right. It's true here.
It is. It is true here.
All right. Peter.
No. All set.
Peter was one of the lifetime residents, by the way. It says it's approaching 60. Because we introduced ourselves before, and I alluded to you.
Did you?
Yes, yes. So. All right, go around the room. Anything to add? Sir?
No, thank
Yes.
you. Very, very informative. Thank you.
All set, thanks.
Thank you.
All set. Good. Thank you very much.
Okay, today's third. We ask if you do have questions, please don't be bashful. Write them down and get them to us by the 6th, please. And we will get those answers out to you in suite so that we can help you on the best possible place there is. And hopefully we serve your needs, and we spent hopefully an hour of your time plus your commute. So today's 2 hours
Took
of
you
your
a few
life
minutes.
tonight. Hopefully you don't walk out of this room thinking 2 hours I never get back.
Oh.
Thank you all for coming this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time.
All right, Kirby, we're just going to go on pause here for a moment, and then we'll gin up after we say goodbye to our guests. Thank you.
Tell you when to leave. You tell me
Miss me?
Okay. Folks at home, hopefully this was useful for you all. And as you saw as we went through this evening, if you think we may have missed, thanks very much. If you think we may have missed some things on this, let us know, please. We are going to be opening up a mailbox on the town website. It'll be an email, and we'll be publicizing that. We're just going through the technical process of doing it, because that mailbox will forward to a couple of folks here in town so that we can get your questions answered. Maren?
Use my email address right away.
And if, as Maren just said, and say it out loud, please.
m2hill@littletonma.org.
Okay.
You can get it on the website.
Yep. So if you have some thoughts, drop a note to Maren, please. Call Keith, too. Keith loves to have phone calls. No, very sincerely, get those thoughts to us. And if you think we said something wrong tonight, also correct us, please, because we don't want to be putting out bad information. Now, with that, if you've been following us, you know that we've also established a subcommittee to look at the proposals as they come into us. That subcommittee is going to look at them, have an interview process with the prospective bidders, and then narrow it down and actually make a recommendation to the planning board as to who we should go out on contract with. One of the folks we thought would be a very good addition to that group was our town administrator, Keith Bergman. Keith brought to our attention, because he's the vice president of MAPC, which is one of the prospective bidders, that it would be a conflict of interest. And indeed, we all agree with that. So we're looking at what might we do to replace Keith on the committee. One of the proposals, and it's new information for you folks this evening, it just came to me this morning, and the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Jim Carr, suggested perhaps a town administrator from another town. So with that thought, what I'd like to do is open up for some discussion and see if we want to invite a town administrator from one of our adjoining towns to see if he or she would be interested in working with us on the selection committee.
Do we have to fill the space?
Do not have to, nope.
I'm not sure. Probably lean towards not filling it.
Right, I'm thinking that we have enough good people invested in the process that I'm not exactly sure what added benefit we would get. I also worry that because the master plan is so specific to Littleton, it's Littleton's master plan, I'm not sure that someone outside of town, if it was a more generic hire or evaluation of something that every town does the same way, more or less the same way, I could see where maybe there'd be some merit to that. But this is going to be our process, it's going to be unique to Littleton. I'm not sure what they would bring, and I'm also struggling to understand what pitfall we would avoid by virtue of having that. I think we got some good coverage.
Okay.
It's my own point of view.
I would think the town administrator who is implementing a plan would have very inside knowledge of what pitfalls that plan would have and could contribute, so we don't fall into those same pitfalls. So,
That's what I said for that.
Okay.
Did you mean that they could give us, other town administrators could give us advice on the consultants? Oh, yeah, that's what
where they fall short on their
Yeah,
plan.
we could get reviews from other
Right, 'cause
towns,
they're
say,
implementing
these are
it.
the ones that have applied, do you have any feedback on them with your experience? Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Finished theirs? Is that
Yeah.
right? Oxford, the guy that came here to speak with us, he was just,
Just finishing up, yeah.
they were just getting done, and he was taking over as they were all done, picking their that's the word I was looking for.
Boxbow didn't use a competitive process, they went right to MAPC though.
Is that what they did? All right. So, perhaps he's not the best to apply for.
Other thoughts?
Or somebody from planning in Westford.
Westford, they were really open to providing feedback on our candidates, so we leveraged them like that, I
Who
think.
do we have currently?
Groton one too.
We have folks presently in here, we have,
I don't think
what,
Harvard
4
was
from this,
in.
from this group? Yeah.
So, we subbed you into it, didn't we?
Oh, you did? Oh, that's fine.
No,
tried.
Rich, myself,
I couldn't answer.
Mike,
And me.
and you from
And-
here,
And what else?
and then
do
Bonnie, Maren. Is that our team? It's our team, isn't it? Yeah.
we have to have an odd number for some reason, or
No.
sometimes these are drivers?
Because even if we end up tying and we go forward to the planning board, here's what we got. Yeah, they get to make the final decision.
Is it part of the process that we go through something called scoring, where we use a so-called objective system for basically scoring each of the
Keep scoring
proposals.
anymore.
I'm sorry?
Nobody keeps scoring anymore, everyone gets a trophy.
Well, we can't do it, it's a lot of money, well, not a lot of money, there's money involved here. What I thought, I'm just wondering if there are particular areas of where an outsider or a different view might help us in setting up our scoring system.
I would say just be careful that the scoring system doesn't steer you, but you steer the, it's like teaching to a test, that you don't restrict yourself.
I don't think that anyone on the subcommittee is going to be easily swayed by much of anything. And it has to do with staying within the boundaries of regulation, to be perfectly blunt about it, which is so that we don't go off, become too imaginative.
And that
as a
provides a good segue.
Yeah.
Why do we think Keith was a good idea, other than he's town administrator? First off, smart guy, does a lot of good things for the town. But then also, as a town administrator of many decades, yes, Keith, you're getting old, and that is, he brings a depth of knowledge that perhaps none of us on this committee possess when it comes to municipal law, municipal actions, and certainly a lot of the inner workings of the town. Now, yeah, we've all, lived here some, whether it's 6 months or 60 years, give or take a week. We think we know a lot, but certainly when it comes to municipal law, municipal activities, a town administrator, a competent town administrator is going to know quite a bit. But now Keith secondarily brings the intimacy of knowledge of the town, where that outside town administrator would not. So certainly the presumption is, any town administrator we would invite, we already thought to be competent. So when it comes to that first part that I described, that person could fill that, which begins to talk a little bit about your concern about scoring and staying within some sort of lane that we don't want to miss. But we lose the intimacy, if you will.
Well, just speaking of that, just had a thought. I mean, we do have a resident who was the previous town administrator, who is a town administrator in another town. We have Tim Goddard, right?
Excellent point.
I mean, I think he would have that in-town perspective as well as the administrative perspective.
So in other words, you're saying that if we had a technical question or an overview question about, I'm going to just keep using scoring because it's easy, about the scoring.
No, not the guy on the scoring, but as another person on the panel.
Oh, you're just talking about just another, shall we say, administrative voice.
Yeah, I think he'd be an excellent person.
That's interesting.
Yeah, for the reason we were thinking of Keith.
Right.
Yeah.
Tim's excellent, duh.
Yeah.
Right.
Excellent.
Town moderator, former town administrator, as you say, current town administrator. So,
I would leave it at that. Let's ask, if Tim wants to do it, I don't see any reason why we would ever think about going and getting a third party.
Yep.
Just.
brilliant.
Good. Okay,
Plus, somebody else from out of town might want to be paid for it. Tim just definitely wouldn't be looking for it.
oh, no.
He gets like a $50
We already know that
budget
everybody
for
involved in the
non-payment.
process has to do it for free, based on your earlier comments, so.
There you go.
Okay, Tim, if you happen to be watching,
You're in.
Start running.
Change your phone number. I know where he works, too. I've seen him in his office.
Don't tip him off.
I will reach out to Tim if you like.
Yes,
Yes,
that'd be
please.
Fine.
So, okay?
He doesn't like being touched.
John, okay?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Do we want to talk about anything else this evening? Schedule or anything?
I didn't have anything else on the agenda.
Yeah, we're getting together next Tuesday, the 10th, right?
Right, Tuesday the 10th. Next week's meeting will be at the police station in the community meeting room. And first off, congratulations on the group of consultants that you were able to gather at tonight's
It was a good
meeting.
group.
That was very impressive.
Can you just read off the list of the companies that were here?
Yep.
Because there weren't that many.
Yeah, Mark Rassicott from MAPC, Ken Buckland from the Cecil Group, Jeffrey Logan from VHB, Bill Scully from Green International Affiliates in Westford, Eric Halverson from RKG Associates, Peter Sandburn from COG Inc., and Peter Flinker from Dodson and Flinker.
It's a good group.
Yeah.
Have you had an opportunity to work with any of them?
VHB, and a couple others, Cecil.
Green affiliates.
All right, and in a nutshell, what do we want to cover next week?
Next week, we have the page-by-page review of the 2002 master plan.
Yes, we do.
Yes, which wasn't...
Can we say
that-
section by section instead of page by page?
Worked for me. I have extra copies, hard copies, if anybody else would like one. Happy to pass those out. The other place I was headed was the data for the 2002 master plan was from the 1990 census. So,
Oh, the information that they've populated, that one, yes, okay, thank you.
10 years old when we did.
As you go through the 2002 plan in preparation for next week, if you've already written down some of the comments, questions that you have, because what I'd like to do is compile whatever it is we discuss, at I'm going to say at too deep a level, but certainly not at too high either, and forward that to the prospective bidders. Because again, that's a little bit of homework that we can help them with, that perhaps helps them get a better prices or a better product for us. Does that sound reasonable? Mm-hmm. Now, see, the other one's going to be doing most of the typing, but thank you. So. Okay, let's go around the room. Peter, anything else? Renato? No. All right, good. Joe? Melissa?
I'm going to do a quick Facebook update while we were here, so go like it, please.
Okay. John?
Nothing?
Good.
Good. We're going to post this on, this being the briefing, it's going to go on to the website, town website. We will email it to the folks that have attended, anybody else that, but then if you talk to anybody, say, hey, it's on the website, go look at it, please. Do we need to cover anything else on that? Anything else? All right, I think it's a wrap then, folks. Take a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, folks at home. Come on out. Ciao.